It's Fernando Ruiz Art.
Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. And we're looking at one of the most popular projects that I ever worked on, the Archie vs. Predator miniseries. And this is actually the hardcover collection of that miniseries, published by Dark Horse Comics. And it's probably one of the my most favorite collections of my own work, because not only do you get the whole series plus all the covers and all the variant covers that came with it, but there's this nice section in the back with some of my sketches, some of the preliminary art that I did for the series, and scans of some of my pencils for the series before they were inked and colored. So it's a real nice view, and there's some of the artwork that went for some of the other covers. It's a real nice behind the scenes look at this amazing series. So today I thought that I would draw the Predator from Archie vs. Predator, which is a little bit different than anything that I've done before in these videos, because really he's kind of a mix of many worlds. And I'm gonna throw down a rough body here, get down a quick pose for the Predator. Now I'm always asked, this is one of the projects that I'm always asked about the most whenever I do conventions. It's one of the things that people really remember. If they haven't read it, they've heard about it. And some people, if they've heard about it, they never believed it was real. And in fact, when I first heard about it, I didn't believe it was real. Or that it would ever really happen. And I've told the story at conventions a lot. The way it came about was Archie Comics had just done Archie versus Kiss, which was tremendously popular. And this was, the dawn, approaching the thick of intercompany crossovers. And a lot of companies were, of course, reaping the benefits of these crossovers, and Archie definitely wanted in. And they saw that, the Archie versus Kiss miniseries, drawn by my buddy Dan Parent, it was phenomenal. It did enormously well, and it got a lot of attention. People loved it. So there was a meeting that I attended, which was the Archie Creator Summit, something like that. So they were talking about a lot of ideas that they wanted to do, and they were talking about other crossovers that they wanted to do, and Archie versus Predator was one of the ones that they mentioned, that was brought up, and a couple of others were thrown around. Archie versus Godzilla, which I kind of would want to see. What was the other one? Oh, Archie versus Jason of the Friday the 13th movies, and Archie versus Freddy Krueger. Those two were thrown around, and I don't know if those ever went any further than that speculation. The one that everybody kept coming back to, though, was Archie versus Predator. Everybody liked that concept, and I gotta admit, I was always a big fan of the Predator movie. So I was all for it. Now, a couple of things as I attending this meeting and hearing the back and forth. I didn't think it would happen, number one. And if it did, I didn't think in a million years they'd ever ask me to draw it. Because around this time, I was starting to get the impression that I was just Archie's, just their classic guy. That means I just drew their digest stories, regular classic Archie stories, and they didn't really seem interested in using me for anything really special or anything else. But lo and behold, not long after that meeting, I get the phone call asking me if I would do it, and of course, I absolutely jumped at the chance. I mean, above all else, I just figured it would be fun. So, initially, and this being an intercompany crossover, usually what happens is, both companies agree to it, then one company ends up taking on the editorial reins, which means they put it together. And then, they divvy up the money, or maybe a licensing fee is paid to the other company. But generally, one company more than the other is in charge of putting the thing together. So in this case, Dark Horse took it on to put together the book. So I was dealing with Brendan Wright, my editor at Dark Horse, for this book, and it's been a while, so I got to look up some of Predator's details here. Okay, there we go. I see. So forgive me if I'm not getting his details exactly right here. So one of the first things when when we first talked and wanted to get the ball rolling is they wanted to see how I was going to draw the Predator. I mean, they had 20 years of my Archie work, so they knew how that was going to go, but they wanted to see how I was going to draw the Predator. So my initial take was to draw a realistic Predator. A Predator as if he appeared in a regular standard DC or Dark Horse book, just totally realistically drawn. So I did a few of those. But then Brendan, my editor, he had a good idea. He said, this is sort of like the Predator we see anywhere, everywhere. So why don't we try Archifying the Predator? Which I thought, okay, let's give that a shot. Let's see what he would look like. So that's what I ended up doing. I made a very cartoony version of the Predator, and really he's just more of a kind of a simplified version of how I would normally draw him. And I got his body down here now just to explain a little bit of what I'm doing. Now it comes to adding all the details, and he's got details. So I simplified a lot of these things, these gadgets, which I think ultimately worked out for the best. And that really, I think that really was the way to go, because the thing about Archie versus Predator is that the gag is that it's the Archie universe. It's the Predator we all know and would run away from in real life, but he is in this series, he's a cartoon, and he looks a little cute, and everybody, the whole Archie gang looks like the Archie gang. They all look like, the cute, funny teenagers. And then the Predator starts killing everybody. And that's the humor. That's where the gag is. So a realistic Predator, you like Brendan said, you can see that anywhere. Let's see an Archie-fied Predator. And I really think that's what a lot of people responded to with this series, was you know, it's a gag that really takes you by surprise. You don't expect the Predator in Riverdale. You don't expect the Predator to be killing everybody, to be killing the Archie gang. You don't expect to see the Archie gang beheaded and killed and maimed, and all this gruesome stuff happens in the series, which was funny because as I'm drawing the series, the whole time I'm drawing the series, I thought there's, you know, I'd read the script, and you know, all my professional life of drawing comics, and as I tell my students, you always have to follow your script. The script is everything. Follow the script. And the script kept saying things like, you know, Reggie gets a leg cut off, Jughead gets his head cut off and shoved into a candy machine. Sabrina was beheaded and her spine torn out. Oh, it was gruesome. Pop Tate got his head blown off. That was the first one. That was the first time in the series where I said, okay, they're not going to let this happen. And I kept expecting, the whole series, I kept expecting everything would have to get redrawn. Everything was, you know, they weren't going to let me continue, you know, they weren't going to let me keep the stuff that I was drawing. I was expecting all the artwork to always get returned to me, saying, you got to clean this up, you got to make this less gruesome. And the only time anything was ever returned to me that they told me to change was Veronica's nude scene. That's right, you heard that right. There was a scene where Veronica changes out of her clothes. Now, I strategically placed furniture and things so that nothing would be visible, but she was nude. You know, her clothes had been splattered by blood, which was kind of a running gag throughout the series, is that anytime something gruesome happened, Veronica just caught a whole big bucket full of blood. So at one point she changes out of her bloody clothes, and you know, she's changing, and she's actually in the nude. So that artwork, they said, okay, we can't have her running around in the buff. So there is so she gets a set of underwear where she once had no underwear, and there was some furniture strategically positioned where there once was no furniture. So that's a little behind the scenes info. So here's my most of my Predator. What do you think? I may tweak him a little bit more and tighten him up. Maybe what I'll do is I'll do a video on inking him, and then what we could do is color him. What do you think? I hope you dug my mad ramblings about Archie versus Predator. I hope you enjoyed this drawing. Though, you know, I'm going to do a part 2 to this one where I will continue it, so I hope you'll come back. If you enjoyed this, please click like, please consider subscribing, and run for the choppa. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.